I'll tell you why it's important the Jaguars get their true first home win of the season. We'll do it here in just a second on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Going on, good people? Welcome to another edition of Locked On Jaguars. I'm the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast, Tony Wiggins, here with your team every day, and we thank you for making us your first listen. A quick reminder that we are free to subscribe to on our YouTube page, that is Locked On Jaguars. Make sure you hit the like button, hit that bell so you receive notifications whenever we drop an episode. And then when you listen to your audio podcast, wherever you happen to do that, make sure that you tap in every single day so that you don't miss an episode. Today's show is sponsored by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code in all lowercase LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. That's right, PrizePicks. What's going on, good people? It's Friday. You ain't got no job and you ain't got nothing to do but sit here and listen to me on Well, I hope y'all got a job on Locked On Jaguars. As we get ready for the Indianapolis Colts to come to town and the Jaguars to try to win their first true home game. And if you don't know why I'm saying it that way, is because technically they did win a home game in London against the Atlanta Falcons. But I mean home as in Jacksonville. I don't mean what's on the official record. I mean what actually happened. To come home and win. They've lost to Houston and Kansas City here in front of the fans, and the fans have not experienced the chance to have a home victory celebration as they leave the stadium. So we hope that that happens for the first time this week. In segment 2, I'm going to run through why I think it's important to get ahead and to be ahead of the time I call separation time or separation season, especially in the AFC. And then the trade market wish list, like so many people are talking about who may be released or who got released. And if the Jaguars are interested, I'll tell you why I think I like some guys that they may not like. And I'll go through some positions and tell you where we can find those players. But yeah, now back to getting this first true home win. I just think it's a big deal. It's important. If you can't dominate your home field and make it an advantage for you when you play at home, then you're never really going to truly be a championship team. The teams that win championships are the teams that can dominate home and can make this a uncomfortable place. Lane Kiffin said something a couple of years ago when he was coaching. I think he was coaching at Tennessee before he left years ago. His philosophy was, when they come in, we lock them in, and they don't leave until we let them out. And that was just so bad ass to me. You know what I mean? I was like, oh man, that sounds so good. If I was ever a football coach, that's probably what I would tell my team. Once they get here, we lock them in, and they don't leave until we tell them they can leave. But it's the mentality that I believe that you have to have when you believe you're a good football team. That this is a long day. You come in here, it's a long day. It's a long, hot day. It's a long, loud, and hot day. That's why I want them to win. I want the jubilation that the fans have after those wins. That's what I want to see on Sundays. Now, what's the chances that's going to happen this weekend? It's pretty good. I don't think they're going to let Gardner Minshew beat them. Gardner Minshew is, we like Gardner Minshew, but you know how I feel about Gardner. Gardner is a career backup who can start some games. You know, I'm not going to sit here and cast aspersions on him. It's hard to be a backup quarterback in the NFL, especially that can put up the numbers that he put up. But he's not a starter for a reason. And the Jaguars at this point, you know, you want them to win them all, but the only games that they should lose are the teams with really good quarterbacks, or really good young quarterbacks, right? Shouldn't be losing to a guy who's a replacement level player. And so, yeah, but we know what has to happen. You have to go out and do it. If they don't win the line of scrimmage, and they didn't win the line of scrimmage on either side of the ball in that first game when they won earlier this year, he did not. They got whipped. That's just my opinion. I think they got whipped. So they really, really, really do have to win the line of scrimmage. Don't turn the ball over, and then they have to continue to create turnovers in the way that they have been doing all year. So when you think about that, I think they have a clear advantage to beat Indy. It's not going to be it's not going to be hot. It's going to be nice fall weather, the first fall game. So the Jaguars fans, we make all of this fuss about these games being really, really hot, right? But the year that we're making all of that fuss about these games being really, really hot, they've only had 2 home games that are hot. If this weather serves and it stays the same, it's going to be about 60 degrees. So then you wonder if the team is really, really going to construct its stadium based on what happens 3 weeks out of the season, 3 or 4 weeks. Now, I know it's unseasonable because it's usually hot as hell here for a long time, right? It's just that the heat kind of ended really quick in October. And I know if you're not from Jacksonville, that's strange to hear that, but yeah. So, I'm wondering. But look at me giving a weather report for the game this weekend. No, I want everybody to have a good time. I can't make it. I can't make it until I heal up a little bit better. But I want everybody to have fun. I want the team to win. I want my wife to come back home happy. She's going to be happy anyway because that's how she is. But she'll just be happy that they won on top of how happy she always is, right? Because she's always going to the game. She's always going to be in the club seats. It's going to be a good time, man, this weekend. I really do think the Jaguars are going to put on a show. I think they're going to have this is going to be their first time that they really, really do have what I call a very, very complete game. I really do. I think that's what's going to happen. So I'm going to tell you why that's important, because separation season is coming. And what separation season is for me is this is the time when you cannot use as an excuse anymore that it's the beginning of the season or it's early. This is when teams really start taking shape, and this is who they're going to be. This is who most of them are going to be, and it's time for them to start positioning themselves and getting ready to try to position themselves to make sure that they put themselves in a great enough position to do the playoffs. I'll tell you about separation season and separation time in the AFC and why the Jaguars can get off to a real good start this week. I'll do it in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. But first, I have to tell you about today's sponsor, which is Jase Medical. I told this story once when I went up to Cleveland to visit some family members, how I got sick with allergies in the middle of the night, right? Didn't have any antibiotics, didn't have anything. And the closest drugstore was 30 miles away, right? In the middle of the night. We had to go do it. You don't have to have that issue go wrong if you are always unprepared and don't be caught unprepared. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. Jase Medical is that place. The Jase Medical, they provide you with what's called the Jase case. It provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use. All it takes to get a Jase case is to fill out a simple online form, and in some cases, jump on a quick call with one of our board-certified physicians. That's right. Get $20 off on these life-saving antibiotics today from Jase Medical by using my code LOCKEDON at checkout on jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. All right, man, we're going to run it down here. Segment number 2 on Locked On Jaguars. Thanking you guys for being here, making us your first listen. As always, we are greatly, greatly appreciative of that. The Jaguars need a good home win. They need to make the fans good about going to the stadium every week. They also need to finally have what I consider a very, very complete game. They were close to a complete game last week, but they just kept making blunders as they were going in to score, and they kept fumbling and coming away with no points. So that means they really weren't close. You either do it or you don't, right? It's important that they get one of these under their belt because I think they're going to need it some. They got a Thursday night game coming up next week against the Saints. Our schedule will be a little bit different next week when it comes to crossovers and stuff. It'll still be on Thursday, but I might just release them a little bit earlier. But I'll let you know about that once I coordinate that with Locked On Saints and Ross Jackson. But they just really have to get a couple of these computer program games under their belt where they are going about their business. They understand exactly what has to happen and they're able to do it. They're able to function. They're not trying to figure it out at halftime or scratching their heads or saying, "Hey, woo, we got away with one there." No, this is when you want to start getting that consistency down, because you're going to get into the meat of your schedule in a separation season. This is where, for a minute, you're, the first 3 or 4 games in, even if you're like 1-3, if somebody's 3-2, you're only 2 games back. Or if they're 2-2, you're only 1 game back, even though you're 1-3, and that sounds like a terrible record. Well, those days are about to be empty and go away, because once you get up in the 7, 8, 9 win category or game category, then there's a bigger difference and a bigger separation between the teams that are still alive and a team that they're almost in it in every game, but they still have 6 losses. 3-6, and you're almost in it. That doesn't hit quite the same as being 1-2 and almost in it, because 1-2, there's still room. Now it's separation season now. Teams are starting to separate. Joe Burrow's getting healthy. The way the Bengals played offensively last week, that's the breakthrough that I'm talking about that I hope the Jaguars have this week. I hope they have their own breakthrough where they play a very clean game. And that's something that I'm really looking forward to. The Chiefs didn't play a clean game at all this past Monday. They look terrible. The Jags just beat Buffalo, right? We just saw Miami score 70 points one week and then give up 48 the next, and then they bounce back. But now they got a couple of injuries at a couple of key spots. Baltimore is still trying to figure it out. Pittsburgh is up and down every week. But they're all in that rough division over there. And then, of course, you got your teams out west that are trying to continue to grow and make a name for themselves, other than Denver. Denver is putrid, by the way, but we won't get into that. But no, man, you're talking about the Raiders had a key win the other night. The Chargers and Justin Herbert. Is this the year they finally start living up to the promise and actually winning games, as opposed to having a situation where everybody's just always continuing to talk about them? So, yeah, it's separation season right now. And it's going to be the teams that are most settled, I believe, at the quarterback position. That's why Jacksonville has such a good chance to put themselves in a position where they can start looking like one of those teams that you can just go ahead and check the box off for a playoff spot. As long as nothing obviously catastrophic happens, along the way in terms of that. Yeah. And by the way, just because I say separation Sunday or separation season and all of that stuff, it doesn't mean that some team can't come up like the Jaguars did last year and come out of nowhere and make the playoffs. So, it's never over. And even when you're up, it's not over. I'm not by any means suggesting that anybody needs to start coasting or I want to get to 6-3 or whatever and just start coasting. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there are points in your schedule where you need to take a stand and go on a little bit of a run. And it doesn't have to be at the end of the year like it was for Jacksonville last year. It could be like right now. They won 2 in a row. Why not make it 5? Why not make it 5? Win 5 in a row. How about that? It's a noble idea. Just, you don't have to always do things the exact same way as you did it before. But then you have to wonder, part of that consistency is them getting healthy. Devon Hamilton, his 21-day window has begun. He's back at practice. He's big. He's got weight on him. He looks good. I wouldn't be surprised I doubt if it's this Thursday, but maybe the game after that, they say, okay, we're going to get him in and put him on a little bit of a pitch count, but he'll add to the depth. And I think DeJuan Smoot plays this week. So they get more people, especially in the trenches. They have to get healthy on offense. On the offensive line, and then be better once they do get healthy. And they could probably use a little bit more. We'll see what Antonio Johnson offers them in nickel, but I'm interested to see what happens when he starts getting on the field. Those 3 positions I just mentioned, it's ironic that I mentioned those because I'm going to talk about this trade market that everyone keeps bringing up as if like every guy that gets free, the Jaguars are going to take him. That's crazy, isn't it? Before I do that, I'm going to tell you, football season is here, and Locked On is kicking up our coverage with Locked On NFL Kickoff Live. Each Friday, Locked On will go live at 2 p.m. Eastern on every Locked On NFL YouTube channel. Hosts Tanitra Baptiste, Jarvis Davis and Kyle Krabs will break down every game on the NFL slate to get you ready for your team's matchup, your fantasy lineups, your betting angles, and more. Plus, get the in-depth local analysis from our stable of NFL hosts across the country who know these teams better than anyone else. Find Locked on NFL Kickoff live every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on any Locked on NFL YouTube channel. All right, man, we're going to talk about free agency. I'm going to tell you who I would target and why I would do it and how I would do it and all of those things. We'll get right into it in just a second here on Locked on Jaguars. After I tell y'all about PrizePicks, man, I've been telling y'all about PrizePicks for a minute, but I'm going to keep telling you about it because it continues to be the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in North America. And it's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers, man. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Here's what you do. Go to prizepicks.com or download the PrizePicks app and enter the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. That's all lowercase. Locked on NFL is the code to use at prizepicks.com for a first deposit match up to $100. All right, man, running it down here. Locked on Jaguars, thanking you all for making us your first listen. Shout out again to the everydayers. Trade market. First of all, what do the Jaguars need? They need the guys they're already paying to be better, right? And to continue to grow and continue to add. Now, you got to watch out for what I call real football. Real football is what you feel in your soul. Like when you see it every week, it's in your brain, it's in your soul, you know what you saw, right? And then you got the fantasy football, we know what that is. But then we got the analytical football world, which doesn't care that the Jaguars defense is playing pretty well and ranked pretty high. All they know is that it doesn't matter that Josh Allen is like second in the league in sacks. All they tell you is that we need more pass rush, right? But that's the eyes. The eyes are telling you that. The eyes are telling you that we need more pass rush. I'm just convinced that nobody's going to be happy until Kayvon Chason has been replaced. I think that's probably where it's at with a lot of fans with Kayvon, because every time we forget now, we end up seeing that video of him running around on the beach. And that's just something that people just can't seem to shake. Nor should they actually be able to shake it, because it's like, if you haven't found it, just Google or go on YouTube or something, Kayvon Chason working out at the beach, and see if that pops up for you. But I just think folks know that you can never have too much. And then with the Jaguars, I think it's more situational rush. It's when you need the rush and you don't see it. And I think that's what kind of gets under your skin a little bit. And that's understandable. That's understandable. There was what was that term? I can't think of the term that somebody used the other day to describe the Jaguars' philosophy on rushing. Is it mush push, or is that might be that little quarterback sneak? But they called it, they described it similar to what Georgia did, and not chase sacks. Just keep pushing the pocket back without creating running lanes for guys like Josh Allen. Because whoever pointed out the fact that Josh Allen didn't have any of those splash plays where he ran the ball the other day when the Jaguars beat him. I personally think they could use a little more nickel. If there's that really, really good veteran nickel guy out there, and I know they love them some Trey Herndon. I ain't saying cut him, but cut the dude behind him. They could use a little more nickel and a little bit more veteran leadership in the secondary. Even though Darius Williams has been lights out, Tyson Campbell has been Tyson Campbell, Andre Cisco has done exactly what I thought he was doing. Rayshon Jenkins has really been super, super consistent. I'm getting a little bit nitpicky, but I say if you just add another veteran nickel, a guy who can play in a 4-2-5 and be out there all the time, can tackle, can cover, can guard the slot guy. I mean, that's a lot to do now. I ain't sitting there acting like these guys just grow on trees either. So you hear a lot of talk about guys like Daniil Hunter. Would I? Yeah, I'd do it. You're only paying the salary for the rest of the season. And then you get a first chance look see, you get the production, and then you get a chance to choose him or Josh. One of them gets paid, one of them doesn't. Or if you decide that you are going to pay both of them, you got to pick the alpha and pay the other one like he's not. Is he going to be happy with it? Or you pay Daniil and tag Josh and you still keep him, but then what do you do with Trayvon on a permanent basis? These are all things. If you're chasing a championship, these are things that can come up. Instead of trading resources, because Daniil Hunter is going to cost you something, probably a second round pick, maybe. Do you just say, let's just go get Frank Clark, man? He's only making less than $3 million, and let's see what we can do with Frank. He's a guy who has a lot of playoff sacks. He's a veteran. I say yeah to that too. Hell yeah. The only thing that I would think that would hinder them from doing that with Clark is, I heard he got a little bit of a knucklehead, traded him a little bit. And hey, all I know is he was productive against the Jaguars, right? Right. So yeah, that's something that I would take a look. See if there's an offensive line out there, or linemen out there. I know a lot of people have been talking about Garrett Bowles. What are you going to do with Garrett Bowles? If Garrett Bowles comes in and Walker Little and Cam Robinson are both healthy, what do you do? Put Garrett Bowles at left guard, put Walker Little at right tackle. Then what do you tell your first round draft pick, Anton Harrison? He's not ready. Well, he'll be back. He's the swing guy. And look, I'm just saying, I'm not saying it's not something that you shouldn't do, but I'm just saying that these are conversations that have to be had. You look a guy every day in his face and tell him how good he is and how much better he's getting, and keep working. Oh, but wait a minute. This year, we're going to sit you down for a minute. See, it's not as if like if you drafted him this year and he was for the future and you were just working him in a little bit and you making your swing guy already. No, you started him. You started him. I've heard people talk about get Cortland Sutton for another big receiver. Look, I get it. That's an expensive ass big receiver though, that you're gonna have for one season, especially when you're already paying a couple of them. And how much different is he than Evan Ingram? I know they're a little bit different, but really, I mean, so I don't think at this point the Jaguars like their team. And so far this year, they haven't been given a whole bunch of reasons not to like them, right? Except the fact that they haven't put together a total and complete game yet, and that's what we're hoping that they do this Sunday. That's what we're all hoping that they do this Sunday. So yeah, those are my wish list. The usual suspects, those names. Knowing them, they'll get some backup linebacker who's good at special teams and somebody else. The Jags just do things differently, man, and they have their own little process of self-evaluation that all teams should have, and they shouldn't answer to anybody, and you shouldn't be able to tell exactly what it is that they're thinking and what they have whatever it is that they're going on. You shouldn't be able to know that at all. But if they do make a move, I promise you, it's probably going to shock half of y'all, and it's not going to be something that you expect because that's typically what they've done at this administration anyway. That is typically what they've done. They caught you off guard, and then they wouldn't do what you thought. They caught everybody off guard with the moves they did, like Calvin Ridley. They caught most people off guard. They didn't catch me on draft night off guard. Everybody knows my track record, but they caught a lot of people off guard when they took Travis Etienne. People was hot, man. They were tight about that draft pick. And they can sit there and act like they weren't. And they can sit there and talk like, like they're going to love their dudes anyway. People were tight. They were tight with me like I made the pick. I only told people that they were going to do it. It's one of those situations where sometimes you can be happy. Just think back to all the things you wanted and you didn't get it. And you're like, whoo, I'm so glad I didn't get that. Or that person, right? Yeah. And then some things you didn't want, you ended up with them, and you're like, wow, this is pretty cool. And I think that's what it is right now with Travis Etienne. I think it's pretty cool. All right, make sure you listen to Locked On NFL, the podcast, every single day. Yours truly is on the Friday show, along with my man, I always call him James Harrison. I don't know why I do that. He ain't Debo, the football player, man. I don't know why I do that. Kim Harrison's gonna knock me out when he sees it. But no, he's we do it. We did it last night following the game and talked about all of the games this weekend. Make sure you check that out on David Harrison on Locked On NFL, the podcast. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe also on the YouTube page. You guys make sure you take care of each other. We're looking for a Jaguars victory. I'll have a postcast on Sunday right after the game, and we'll get right back to it. I'm anticipating that the Jaguars are going to be 4-2. I hope they are, for your sake and for mine. I want y'all happy when you leave the stadium, and I want them to have their first true home win, their real home win right here in Jacksonville. Y'all take care of each other. We'll see you next time on Locked On Jaguars.